Hello Familia, Fast X has finally landed in theaters, and with the 10th installment in the Fast and Furious franchise now out to the public, it's time for us to dive into full spoilers about this wild and insane movie. I'm going to be giving you guys my full movie reaction, everything involving certain character motivations, twists and turns, cameos, the end credits scene, and even some of the deaths that happened in this movie. But it's not just gonna be about my spoiler review. I want to know from you, the Familia fans. For those of you who went to go see Fast X this weekend, were you happy with the movie? What did you think about some of the reveals? And leave me your predictions for what you think will happen in part 2 of this finale that is now set to be 3 parts. I got some ideas to what they might be setting up here, and let's just say it looks like Fast and Furious is gonna beat Marvel to the Young Avengers. Alright, so diving straight into it here, if you didn't see my spoiler-free review giving you my general thoughts on the film, I just needed Fast X to be better than Fast and Furious 9. That right now to me is my least favorite in the franchise. I was bored throughout it. The ridiculous, zany nature of the Fast and Furious franchise went way too far, so I was hoping Fast X can kind of reel things back, give us at least an intriguing story, make the action and entertainment just feel fun again. And for the most part, Fast X delivered on that. I walked away liking the movie, but still completely understanding why people hate this franchise. I thought they finally gave an intriguing story that actually had me interested all the way through. They got in a villain played by Jason Momoa that I can't wait to talk more in detail about. The ridiculous stunts and actions didn't go way over the top where we were ending up in space. It felt fun and thrilling again. Nowhere near the peak that Fast 5 was, but hey, maybe we could get back there for the last 2 movies. But starting from like the beginning now in full detail here, they set it up with showing you the backstory of Fast 5 and how Jason Momoa was there the entire time and we just didn't see him. Although I thought that was just like a dumb repetitive thing for them to do in the Fast and Furious franchise, bring in an unknown enemy from the past, upset with the Familia that they messed with their Familia, and now they want revenge on your Familia. So much Familia. It felt necessary for the people still trying to keep up with what was going on with this franchise, but I gotta tell you, when we went into present day and we are seeing the iconic Dodge Charger just doing donuts and circles in this parking lot, burning rubber, I was like, okay, Dominic Toretto doing what he does. It was his son, his 9-year-old son behind the wheel doing donuts. In the Fast and Furious franchise, this is like the equivalent of the hero putting their son in martial arts so that they could be an excellent fighter in the future, but I was just dying internally at the thought of a 9-year-old doing donuts in a parking lot, and then Vin Diesel coming down all serious like, you tried your best, son, and that's all that matters in this family. You just know Universal can't wait for like 10 to 15 years to pass by so they can reboot this franchise with the kids of all the current crew members. But whatever, that scene gets done, and in true Fast and Furious fashion, they're having a family barbecue. I need to know these guys' grocery bill and how often they be barbecuing. That's where I do want to bring up one thing I've been seeing some fans complain or ask me questions about with the whole Paul Walker situation. Because no, Paul Walker does not show up in CGI form, in surprise cameo, in any fashion. All the Paul Walker scenes are past footage from different movies. But I'll get comments from people going like, did Brian play babysitter while his wife is doing the real fighting? And I'm just like, what do you expect to happen? I think people would be way more pissed if there was a full-on CGI Paul Walker for the entirety of the movie. But even then, I get it, man. There's scenes in here where I'm like, Brian should be here. He would not leave his wife alone in a house unguarded. But I think that's just something that's not going to go away. That's always going to be a thought in the back of your mind going, why wouldn't Brian show up here? Brian would definitely show up here, but we have to understand why he's not. But then this brings us into modern day introduction of Jason Momoa's Dante. We see that Cypher like shows up to Dominic Toretto's house all beaten up, bruised up, nearly dying, saying, look, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And right now we're at war and we gotta choose sides. I'm picking your family. Which is another like roll back of eyes thing that has just been happening in the Fast and Furious franchise. Nobody can just be a villain anymore. They always have to eventually become family at some point. Brian and Dom, enemies that had to become family. Dom and Hobbs, enemies that became family. Dom and Shaw, enemies that became family. Dom with Jacob, family that became enemies that then became became family, and now Cypher, an enemy becoming family. I get that like Fast and Furious is on this like heightened soap opera form of storytelling where they just do these like repetitive things, but they are recycling so many of their own tropes over and over in this movie. And I guess to me, that's why it's so refreshing that Jason Momoa as Dante in here was just a complete psycho having fun on screen. He walks into a room completely filled with armed guards, all working for Cypher, and I was like, what's he gonna do here? They're really gonna make us believe he can take them all down by fighting? But instead, he managed to find the family members of every single one of these guards, saying, you don't join me, I'm gonna kill your family. There was even one guard that didn't have any family, not even a cat or a dog, and Jason Momoa's Dante just stabs him up and goes, sorry, that guy didn't have family. There wasn't anything I could hold up against that guy. That was like pure comedic genius in the Fast and Furious universe. I laughed so hard at that, but it was in that one moment I was like, all right, I like this villain. This guy's cool. I was wondering why it took him 10 years to do anything, but it looks like he was definitely building up to a master plan. And all throughout the movie, Jason Momoa is just this like nonsensical, just funny guy. It's like a villain that actually matches the silliness of the Fast and Furious universe, so it kind of blends in well when everyone else, including Dom, is taking themselves so dang seriously on screen. The Joker comparisons aren't only there because of how psychotic Dante is as a character, it's also because when you put him up next to Dominic Toretto, he's just so serious and brooding, like, I'm gonna take you down. I don't care what you do. And side note, come on, Vin Diesel's voice in every Fast and Furious movie gets more nasally, deep, and growly. I'm telling you, by the time Fast X Part 3 comes out, it's just gonna be... But yeah, if Dante was not part of this movie and he wasn't being set up as the big bad for these next couple of movies, I don't think I'd be on board for whatever Fast and Furious was doing. So Jason Momoa to me is saving these films. I never thought I would see a scene where the villain of a Fast and Furious movie is sitting with the dead corpses of two cops while he's painting their nails and is full on having a conversation with them. I would have thought that would have never have worked. But here in the movie, I was laughing my butt off. But from there, for like the first 45 minutes of this movie, it actually had me really invested into what they were doing. Genuinely felt like I was watching what Fast and Furious felt like from like part 5 all the way to part 7. What we have going on here is a group led by Roman, Tyrese Gibson's character, that also has Tej, Ramsey, and Han. They're going to Rome for what they believe is a mission by the agency. But after a bit, it's actually revealed that the agency never sent them on a world-saving mission, and this is a trap set up by Dante. I was like, oh snap, what's gonna happen now? And that led us into like one of the first fun action scenes in a long time in Fast and Furious. You have this rolling big ball going all across Rome, destroying things, blowing up stuff, and Dominic Toretto showing up with his Dodge Charger like he's Superman, saving people. I kid you not, there's a moment where the ball's about to hit a tank of gas and it's gonna explode, but on the other side of the street, there's people having brunch outside eating. So Dominic Toretto drives his car into a pole, protecting the people and letting him escape from this fire. I was like, they're treating this guy like Superman with a car. But whatever, because it was actually kind of working for me. This was like the perfect example of like ridiculous, dumb, crazy stunts, but at least have been set up to be realistic in the Fast and Furious universe. We know Dom's immortal and can do anything in this car, but there was moments where I was like, man, this bomb's gonna explode any second. How are they gonna defuse it? All these characters are racing, trying to stop it. And even though it was kind of dumb the way he eventually stops it by jumping into a crane and then it ricocheting off into a lake, I was having fun with that scene. But really, that was like the only group mission that had them together all at once in the same place, because from there, they all go in different sections. So you have the Rome group of 4 that stay in Rome trying to figure out how they can leave the country because they're fugitives. They've been blamed for this bomb in Rome. Then you have Letty, who actually got arrested and sent to a maximum security prison where Cypher also is, and that's them trying to escape out of there for the entirety of the movie. Then you have John Cena put on the task to protect little Brian and make sure he doesn't get kidnapped. And Dominic Toretto just freely going about the mission kind of by himself all over the world. So now kind of diving into the details of each storyline, from least interesting to me to most interesting. The Cypher and Letty one, it felt so unnecessary and like they were just purposely dragging it out for the entirety of the movie because that's something they want to explore more in the next film, especially because of what happens at the end of their little story, which we'll talk about here in a sec. But although the fight between Letty and Cypher was cool, Michelle Rodriguez gets some like gnarly punches into Charlize Theron, it just felt like a drag to cut to. Then you had the group in Rome that was really only there to bring up cameos. Starting off with them going to an internet cafe where Ramsey has a connection that someone might be able to help them out get out of the country, And it was Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson is now part of the Fast and Furious universe. I'm gonna tell you guys, I like Pete Davidson. I think he's a funny guy. And so while in the first like 30 seconds of the Pete Davidson cameo, I was laughing, giggling, thinking, oh my God, what is he gonna do here? By the time his scene was over, I was like, what the heck was the point of this? It leads up to absolutely nothing. You think it'll be something that'll get them from like point A to point B, but really they show up and it was just an excuse for Ludacris and Tyrese Gibson to have like a little childhood brawl in this movie. I did like the jokes though that Roman was carrying around his money and asking everybody for receipts for tax purposes. I thought that was kind of funny. And then you have Han over here getting high off muffins. Yeah, I'm not lying. Han gets high off muffins and we get to see his vision be all a little blurry for no reason. All just so Pete Davidson can sell them out at the last second and say that he reported them to the authorities because the reward for their capture is much better than helping them out. And I'm like, what was this scene for? Nothing happened here. It was just to show off Pete Davidson in this universe. And then that connects into the post-credit scene for Fast and Furious 9, where we saw Han go up to Shaw. I was curious to see what that scene would all be about, but it doesn't really even become that satisfying. I've been wanting to see these two characters kind of duke it out or talk it out to what happened, because I'm still confused how Han is alive and still breathing. But even that scene kind of felt rushed. It sets up Jason Statham's character, Shaw, for like something bigger in the second movie because they tell him, oh, Dante has your mother. You know, the woman that has like so much sexual tension with Dom? She's gone. And that's like where we last see his character packing a bag and going to get his mother. It was just more frustrating cutting to their storyline throughout the movie. Dominic Toretto then just jumping around, kind of meeting up with Brie Larson's character, which, hey, that's another thing I want to talk about. I like Brie Larson in this movie. I think she's a nice addition into the world. It sucks she didn't get a lot of screen time because there was already so much going on in this movie. But the thing I hated about Brie Larson's character is the whole family trope. Not only does she turn out to be the sister of Scott Eastwood's character, she's also the daughter of Mr. Nobody, who they repeatedly mention in this movie. He's not dead, guys. He's just missing. We don't know where he's at. I'll tell you where he's at. In Fast X Part 2 or Part 3, that's where he's gonna be at. Why can't just Brie Larson be a random agent that works for the agency and wants to believe these guys are good? But no, that wasn't the only surprise familiar reveal. At one point, Dom also has to go back to Brazil to get some information about Dante and maybe could use it as a weakness against him, where we have a race in Fast and Furious. Oh my God, isn't it funny that a franchise that started about racing cars, now all these movies later, you're lucky if you get one race in a Fast and Furious film. But it was Dante, Dom, a new girl named Isabel, and a random friend of Dom's that hosts the races here. So as they're racing, Dante actually put a bomb on two of the cars and now is making Dom pick which one to save. And this whole time you're thinking it's gonna be the guy because Dom obviously is friends with him, has a relationship, and this new girl is a stranger to him. But no, Dom saves the strange new girl for some reason, and we find out because she is the sister of Dom's baby mama, the Brazilian cop from Fast and Furious 5 and 6. Why is revealing a surprise family member like such a big Easter egg and cameo in these films? It feels so unnecessary. And I have no problem with this actress coming in or them wanting to do this reveal, but when the series already has so many characters and they're growing and growing and you're bringing other people back from the dead, what is the goal here? It feels just unnecessary. So who knows if this sister will now play a big part in later movies, but now you know she exists somewhere out there. Leading me to what was my favorite storyline all throughout this movie. Every time we cut back to John Cena, Jacob, and Little B, I am so happy that they made the decision to completely change John Cena's character into the lovable goof. I like the little back and forth he would have with his nephew here. It was honestly a lot more fun than him just looking angry on screen. But the thing that kind of surprised me but also just seemed dumb to me, especially with the way this movie ends, by the time their story ends and then Jacob and Dom meet back up and Dante's really racing because his ultimate goal is to find Dominic Toretto's son using God's eye, which is like the same device they were hunting down in Fast and Furious 7. I thought that was a cool little connection in here. Jacob decides the only way to save Dom and Little B is if he sacrifices himself, and we essentially get Jacob die in this movie in a car explosion. And look, with what they're doing in this universe, I don't think anyone can believe that Jacob is really dead. Like, you just had a whole movie dedicated to setting up John Cena as Jacob. Now you bring him in here and give him a likable personality just to kill him right away? That feels so dumb. I don't think the death is permanent. I definitely feel they're gonna explain some BS reason why Jacob survived, and I'll be fine with it because I like his character. But I miss the days where a Fast and Furious death actually hit you, actually hurt. You were actually sad about it. Go back to the death of Han. Go back to the death of Giselle. Go back to the death of Jesse. Those were character deaths that you felt bad about, that you were like, damn, they're gone. That sucks, man. Now I'm seeing frickin' John Cena die, and I'm like, he's gonna be back in the next movie. There's no way you're gonna make me believe people die in these films. That then segues us into the last couple minutes of this movie, where Dom and Little B are just stuck on the road of this dam while two Optimus Prime trucks are just coming at them for an explosion. They get away, and there's bombs about to explode the dam and just flood water, drowning the two, where the movie just ends, setting up the next film. But it didn't just end there. Minutes before that, we finally had Roman, Ramsey, Tage, and Han showing up, where Alan Ritchson's character is revealed to be a villain working for Dante this entire time. He's not a cop. That reveal didn't really feel that huge to me, but again, they want us to believe characters died. He shoots a missile at the plane that eventually causes it to crash, and for all intents and purposes, it looks like Han, Tage, Ramsey, and Roman are dead. No way they would kill off 4 characters like that so easily. They're also obviously alive. I'm assuming they jumped off the plane last minute and landed in the water and are somewhere up the river, and that's what will be revealed in the next movie. But just teasing those deaths now feels so dumb, because we gotta talk about the last face we see before the credits roll. So we cut back to Cypher and Letty making it out of this maximum security prison that is in the Antarctic, where the submarine from Fate of the Furious comes back, and no one other than Giselle, Gal Gadot, is driving the submarine, revealing she is also alive and did not in fact die in Fast and Furious 6. What are you freaking doing, guys? Look, okay, there's a lot of thoughts about this. To me, it's not even like, oh, it's impossible that Giselle could be alive. Did you see what happened to her and the way she died falling off that plane? There's no way a human could survive that. We saw Deckard Shaw's brother manage to survive it and end up in the hospital through the same sort of death. Fine, you can maybe somehow make it believable that she's alive. It's the whole reason that deaths now don't even matter in the Fast and Furious universe. Giselle's death hit me hard the first time I saw that. I felt so bad for Han. It revealed stakes in this world, and that although you have a familia, it can get smaller and smaller throughout the movies. But then in the last movie, you brought Han back. You took that away from us, okay? And it still doesn't even feel that impactful, because now he's just a random member part of the team. You're about to bring Giselle back and taking away that death. It's just like, how can you do that while also teasing 5 other character deaths literally like 10 minutes ago? And I also can't wait to hear the BS dumb reason for why Giselle was alive and never contacted the family, never went back to Han. It's gonna be something ridiculous, especially like, why is she even working with Cypher? But I do have a theory to why Gal Gadot's alive, and maybe even why she's working with Cypher. Bringing me into my theories about what I think is gonna be happening in the next 2 part, okay? If you go back and watch Fast X, or you're about to watch Fast X, watch in the beginning of the movie where Dominic Toretto is in the garage fixing his car and Han is there, and you kind of don't see these characters talk to each other all that much. But the conversation they have is about Dom mentioning, you know, how he just took Little B to do donuts in a parking lot, and then that's where he tells Han, we got to teach them what, you know, build up the next generation. That's the goal. You're having a conversation about kids to a man who doesn't have any. Or so we think. I think they're going to reveal here that Giselle actually was pregnant and that she had Han's baby, became a mother, and she knows the dangerous Fast and Furious life they live and decided she didn't want to be part of that. So we're going to find out Han is a daddy and Giselle is a mommy. That's going to be a reveal. I fully believe that. And the reason now she's working with Cypher is the same reason Dom was working for Cypher in Fate of the Furious. She has a history of stealing babies and forcing you to do a job. And since this universe loves to repeat storylines and tropes over and over, I wouldn't doubt she does that exact same thing here against Giselle. That's what I'm telling you, man. They are setting up this Young Avengers storyline. You know, little B, Dominic Toretto's kid, is going to be the leader of it. You have the two kids Paul Walker's character had. You're going to have this baby from Giselle and Han. And then I'm sure other characters will get together and have random babies as well. Oh, and I completely forgot. They set up at the beginning of this movie, Letty's most likely pregnant. They do the whole Tony and Pepper situation from Infinity War, and are basically saying they're going to have a kid together also. Just think about that juicy drama we'll see in Fast and Furious 24 when the two brothers fight against each other because they don't come from the same mama. Can't wait for that movie. Other than that, we also have to use the post-credit scene as an example to what will be coming next. So in the post-credit scene, it gets revealed that Hobbs was also being put on a mission to find his daughter. We see a little girl's phone and bracelet, most likely belonging to the daughter of Hobbs, which again, just another member for their Young Avenger team in the future. Where Dante's also mad at Hobbs because Dom wasn't the one just driving the car that killed his dad. Hobbs is the ones that pulled the trigger. And I'm so glad Dwayne Johnson agreed to come back, man. There was something exciting about him saying, come and get me, man. I'm right here. Let's go to war. That's gonna be fun to see those two fight each other, or what he's gonna do, because you know Hobbs is the type of guy, you take my daughter, I am gonna shred you. But it's gonna piss me off if they really make the death of John Cena permanent, because we were finally gonna have The Rock and John Cena in the same franchise together. There's no way he's dead. And if I find out later on Dwayne Johnson only agreed to come back if you kill John Cena, bro, my respect for you is going to be on the ground. I'm not starting rumors or saying that's what happened, but Dwayne Johnson publicly said he would never come back to this franchise. Something changed his mind. I'm hoping it was just more money or the fact that he lost out on the DC universe, but I need John Cena and Dwayne Johnson to have some scenes together. Which, on that subject there, Cypher mentioned in this movie, we're going to war and you have to choose sides. The same way Dante was blackmailing guards and lackeys to work for him or else he would kill his family, I'm not going to be surprised if he's able to pull off that same thing with other members of the Familia. Just like how Dom turned on his family in 8, what if Dante is able to get Hobbs, Shaw, and other members of the main group to turn against Dom and have kind of like a civil war going on? That's what I kind of feel they were foreshadowing when Cypher's like, we're gonna go to war and you have to pick a side. And so it's all these possibilities and questions I want answered that make me actually reinvested in Fast and Furious and like, all right, I'm on board. 9 sucked. This one was okay. It was fine. I can see this franchise becoming glorious again, so bring it on for these next 2 movies. That's where I currently stand on things, but this is definitely where I want to throw it off to you guys. You hear me ramble on about Fast X. What did you like about it? What did you hate about it? Be completely open and honest with me, guys. I'd love to hear it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.